Good morning and welcome to Premier's podcast. I'm your host, Zeenat Zaid, and today we are joined by Mr. John Fairhurst, who having practiced as Solicitor of Supreme Court of England and Wales. He is a member of the Law Society as well as the Higher Education Academy. And currently, he is the Principal and Chief Executive Officer at Bloomsbury Institute, London. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you.
So, first of all, I would like to ask you, tell us a bit about yourself, that how you became interested in law.
Yeah. When I did my A-levels, I did my A-levels in mathematics, further mathematics and computer science. And I wasn't interested in that in terms of seeing that would be my future career. So before I then went to university, I had 4 years out of education. Why I decided what I actually wanted to do. And it was just kind of by chance, because you have your TV programs, you see the lawyers that started to get interested in law. So I made an application to the local university in England, was accepted, and that started me on the journey. And so I did the law degree. And then in those days, I qualified as a solicitor. So we had to do the solicitor's examination, which was run by the Law Society in those days. Once you had done that, you did a 2-year training contract, and then you qualified. Yeah.
That's very impressive, sir. So, what are some common challenges that you have faced in when you were practicing, basically?
Yeah. So when I was practicing law, I still got my practicing certificate, but some of the big challenges for a practitioner is how to ensure that all the practitioners are practicing law in the correct way. Yeah. And much of that is about the development of the transferable skills. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in the lecture here. Because you can have a lot of knowledge of law crammed in your head. Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you apply it? Yeah. And that is one of the biggest challenges, because if you are a client coming for legal advice, you don't want to be getting a long diatribe of legal information.
Yeah.
You want to know, how do you apply that knowledge, and what is my solution?
Yeah.
Can I win this case? Yeah.
That sounds very useful. Moving on to the next question. How do you keep up with the latest developments in law? And like you have been practicing for a lot of time, so how do you keep up with that?
It's very much keeping up to practice. It's all, in the UK, it's all online now. So you have bulletins that come through. Solicitors in the UK specialise nowadays. In the old days, it was very much the barrister was the specialist, and then the solicitor would deal with every area of law at a more basic level, and then refer it to the barrister if they needed specialist advice. But solicitors specialise. So when I was practicing, and as I'm still practicing, mine is very much in civil litigation. So contractual disputes, tortuous disputes, that area. So it's not like when you're studying a law degree and you've got to keep abreast of every area of law. It's much more focused. And one of the things in the practice of law is you don't need all the answers here. You have to know where to go and find the answers. More importantly, how to apply that to the problem in hand.
Yeah. That's very enlightening, because that is motivating me, as I was thinking that law is basically cramming up all the things.
Yeah. So, I think one of the things, and we are the same in the UK, we developed a law degree, we redesigned it in 2022. And I know a law degree, there's no examinations. It's all assignment, it's assessment, it's case study, it's presentation, because it's development of your legal skills. Yeah. But a lot of universities, I'm sure it's the same here in Pakistan, that it's still very much exam driven. And when you're exam driven, if your assessment is examination, that's when you've got to cram all this knowledge in your head, regurgitate it, but there's no application of the law.
Yeah, that's basically enlightening. What are you saying? Because we are forced to bombard everything in our minds, that we need to focus on cramming and all that.
Yeah. But I think once you move beyond the law degree and then you do start to get into the practice of law, things do start to change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, they will, I
Yeah.
guess. I hope so. Generally speaking, about the subject of law, it requires extensive study as well as we need the bombardment of knowledge for those who are new to studying law. So, how they can get motivated?
We always say, whether it's a home student who comes to Bloomsbury Institute, or whether it's an international student coming from Pakistan, why? What is your motivation for doing that degree? Look beyond the degree. What do you actually want to do? Yeah. And then the degree is part of the journey to get you to fulfill your dream. And that can be the motivation in itself. Also, I always think, I can even remember when I did my law degree, that first year was difficult. I come from mathematics, computer science, and then moving into a humanities-based subject and having to write essay, which we'd not had to do previously. But you started to learn the art of study, yeah?
Yeah.
And it got easier as you started to progress through. And I would always say, think of that first year as being a foundation.
Yeah, it's the foundation. Basically.
And then you will build upon that as you start to progress. And then you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's just in Pakistan, I suppose it's a long tunnel, isn't it? 5 years on the LLB. But you've just got to persevere with it because the opportunities are there at the end of that journey.
It gives us a sudden boost of enlightenment.
Yeah.
As we can see, there is hope somewhere.
Yeah.
We can grasp through that. Okay. And next, moving on to the question like, what books would you recommend to us as students of law?
Yeah. Well, if you're doing the local LLB, you won't do EU law. I've got a textbook on EU law, and I'm sure you don't study EU. I always say, and I can remember going back to when I was a student, we'd always be recommended 2 or 3 books, yeah? And then you'd just go into the bookstore and decide which one suited your style of learning. So it's very difficult because one student is different to another one. Me coming from a non-law background into doing a law degree, I found not just the textbook, but also the casebook, was really useful because some would say it's cheating, because you're just getting a little summary of the case rather than have to read through pages and pages. But it exactly goes back to your point about having to cram the knowledge. You can't read through all of those law reports when you're studying so many subjects over 1 year. Yeah. And so my tip would be, a textbook that you are comfortable with, but also a casebook that gives you the summary. And usually within that casebook summary, it shows you how to apply. So you've got the principle of law. How is that then applied to a specific issue?
So I guess we need to stay updated with the knowledge.
You have to stay updated with the knowledge, yeah.
So lastly, I would like to ask you that what would you like to be remembered for and why?
Yeah. I think, I qualified as a solicitor and then I went into higher education. So at the age of 30, I practiced law as a solicitor. Then at the age of 30, I got an opportunity to join a university in the UK. And that was primarily to teach on the legal practice course. The legal practice course was what solicitors had to do after the 3-year law degree, yeah? So then they would do the LPC, and then they would move on to the 2-year training contract. Now, while I was at, and that was Huddersfield University, while I was at that university, I got the opportunity to start travelling internationally because I was the LLB course leader, admissions officer, and then I was also responsible for a postgraduate law conversion course. And we were located in the business school. So I got quite a lot of opportunity to travel internationally, and it got me to appreciate the power of education. Sometimes in the UK, it's given to you on a plate, and you take it for granted, yeah? But as you started to travel around different countries, you could see how people appreciate it. But you can also see that power of education to transform an individual's life, as well as the lives of the family, the community that they're in, and also the country. And I always remember Malaysia had a 2020 vision, and their vision was to really invest in education. They funded students to come over to the UK, America, Canada on full scholarships, but then they had to go back and work in the civil service for 3 to 5 years. So that 2020 vision was their roadmap to become a developed country. Yeah, and then they gave up with it. Yeah, and then that vision never materialized. So for me, what I'd like to be remembered for is my contribution to international education and empowering individuals to take advantage of that opportunity. Yeah.
I hope it benefits the people around you as well as whole society as a whole or countries.
Yeah, of
Because it needs
course.
to change. We need to change the point of view that why we are studying law. It's not we are studying to change the society.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And that is the power of law. Yeah.
so thank you for sharing your much needed expertise with us today, and it was great having you. And that's all for today's episode. Thank you for listening. I hope it was compelling to your rational thoughts.
Thank you.